Welcome back to the Retro Sports Gamer channel, and this is a Retro Sports Gaming special. We're here tonight to talk to two of the guys that have, I think the only two guys maybe that have developed basketball classics. It's Namo, Gamo, David, and Josh.
Hey.
How you doing, guys?
Hey.
What's up, guys?
And with us, we also have DPS. What's up, DPS? And my cousin Sean. He played in the tournament with us on Monday night.
Right.
We call him Slapshot Sean. And he's here to talk a little bit of basketball classics tonight. So, David and Josh, I've listened to podcasts, you guys talking about this game. So please tell the viewers, what has been your inspiration for basketball classics? Why did you create this game? Where did you get the idea? And we'll go from there.
Wait, you want to start, Josh?
Sure, yeah.
Do we sound okay, by the way?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, all right.
So I, growing up playing Tecmo Super Bowl, loved the game, but wasn't a huge fan of football. I always wanted there to be some kind of a basketball game that was like Tecmo Super Bowl, that would scratch that same itch, but in a sport that I was more familiar and interested with. And so I looked for years for that game to exist, and never quite found it. When I came across Tecmo NBA, I was like, okay, this is going to be it. But it didn't work for me the same way that Tecmo Super Bowl does. So 25 years later, here I was working as a computer programmer, interested in trying to make a game, and I was like, why don't I try and make that game that I always wished existed? And so I met Dave. We'd been hanging out, doing some work together, and turns out he runs a local Tecmo Super Bowl tournament.
Really?
Yeah, so he had asked me just one day, kind of out of the blue, he's like, "You ever heard of this old game, like Tecmo Super Bowl? I'm having this tournament tomorrow. It's like this annual thing." I was like, "Are you kidding me? I love Tecmo Super Bowl." And so pitched him on the idea of making a basketball game that was kind of a spiritual successor, and he was super interested in it. So we kind of went from there.
So have you created any game before this one, or did you just jump straight into it with this?
No, it's the first one.
Wow.
He's a develop. I mean, he develops apps, and he's gifted. But yeah, in terms of like a full-on game.
Yeah, I've worked as a computer programmer for years, and was always interested in making games, but this is the first game that I've made.
I mean, we've played it, so to say it's the first game you made, that is really excellent. There a lot of people make different games, but the first one isn't always a hit. But we've played it now a few times, and we really love the game. So
glad to hear it.
You talk about that there wasn't any basketball game that caught your interest early in the in the NES days. So which basketball game was your favorite out of those, if any of them? And David, maybe you could talk about the NBA Jam shirt you have on, because it looks like you may be a fan of that game. So
yeah, we both are big fans of NBA Jam. For me, like from the NES era, it would have been Double Dribble. I put hundreds of hours into Double Dribble. But I don't know. What do you think, Dave?
I think we've talked about this quite a bit, that I think the basketball, of all the sports of that era, it's like basketball games were the hardest to translate to video games. Like football, you have plays and you execute the plays. when it comes to basketball, trying to get like the fluid game to be really like strategic just seemed like it was harder to do. And so I would say double dribble for me. And then I tried some Tecmo NBA, but I found myself just like spending a lot of time looking at the teams, you know, like checking out player attributes and stuff. But the actual gameplay wasn't as fun for me with Tecmo NBA.
Right. It's lacking a lot of the elements that make Tecmo Super Bowl such a great game.
Yeah.
So for me, you know, the first basketball game that really caught my eye as a hit is NBA Jam. Played some of the other games in retrospect. Double Dribble, you know, I think for its time, it was a great game, but it's not that good compared to other basketball games. You know, I think the best two on the NAS are probably Tecmo NBA Basketball, even though it does leave a lot left to be desired, and Arch Rivals, which was also made by Midway before they made NBA Jam. That's still a pretty good game, but it's 2-on-2, and it's, you know, you beat up guys, you punch them, there's stuff you slip on the court. So it's stretching the game of basketball a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and there were a bunch of games. I mean, even on the NES, there were like at least 8, maybe basketball titles, and some of them were just like awful. But yeah, I would say Arch Rivals, Double Dribble, and then Tecmo NBA. Those were the only 3 that were hoops, you know, or like ultimate or all pro basketball.
Jordan versus Bird.
Jordan versus Bird was fun in its own way, yeah.
Yeah. You know, Tecmo NBA Basketball really had everything besides the gameplay. I mean, the presentation's great.
Yeah.
Music's awesome. The player profile pictures look good. You know, looking through the attributes, those are good for the most part. It's just like when you play the game, it's like, it's not bad. It's kind of like basketball, but it's just not that fun.
Yeah, we talked about that too, kind of like comparing the two of what made Tecmo Super Bowl so much better. And I don't know if you want to bring this up, but we had talked to Akihiko Shimoji about the game. We can talk about that later. But it's like Tecmo NBA Basketball would stop any flow that you could get going. You know, in all kinds of different ways. All of a sudden, it's like you've got a rhythm down, and they just cut it off with some foul or like the errant. My least favorite is the errant pass. It's like, why would I pass it to nobody? Like, how did it pick up that I was passing it to nobody? You know?
Yeah, and I think in some of these sports games, just adding in fouls and penalties is what makes it a little cumbersome. Because a lot of times, like, let's say we're playing Madden and there's a holding call. Like, obviously, you didn't do anything to get that holding call. The computer just did it. So it's like, you know, it's just a BS penalty, and you just have to live with it. Whereas Tecmo Super Bowl, they actually had plans to put penalties in the game, and there's like they've looked in the code, and there's like there's some cut screens or cut scenes of flags being thrown. But they never put it into the game, which I think is one of the reasons it's so good, because you didn't have penalties.
Well, totally. Yeah, that was one of the things. Like, I mean, even with Double Dribble and Tecmo NBA both, like you're saying, it was that feeling of, you know, where something would go wrong, like a foul, but you never felt like it was your fault. You never really understood why it happened. And that was one, like, driving force. In our game design, we didn't ever want that to be the situation. Like, if something happened, we wanted the player to know that, oh, that was because I did X, Y, Z. Like, not just because, oh, the computer decided, like, randomly.
Yeah, and I think that's what differentiates the great sports games from the subpar ones, where you can really feel and see the difference between each player. there's so many sports games where the difference is so minuscule that you don't really feel it, and it makes it kind of lackluster, in my opinion.
Yeah, big time. Well, that's why double dribble just can't. You can't play it for too long. There's just not enough to it. You know, there's nothing to the attributes of the players, and yeah, everybody's the same. It's almost like the Magnavox stuff, or like those really old, the super old Atari basketball, where they're barely getting the mechanic of the ball moving down.
Yeah, it's just like dribbling one-on-one.
Yeah,
the ball up.
Yeah.
The game's actually not that bad. It's just really elementary.
Right. Yeah. It just didn't have any of the attributes, you know. I mean, that was one of our main things. So, like, if we wanted to call out like a few things that really informed the decisions we made in the game, like it was that we wanted there to be strategic depth. We wanted it to be an attribute-driven thing. It had to be like pick up and play, but still have levels of mastery where you could improve over time. You know, not like double dribble again, for instance. You know, I mean, we've had people tell us like, oh yeah, I put 300 hours into it. I played against my wife who's playing it for the first time and she beat me because there's no depth. Like it's just like press over to run and press the shoot button and hope it goes in, whatever.
Yeah.
I think the goal is always to create a simple, fun game that has tremendous depth.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you guys have created, and that's what Tecmo Super Bowl is, and that was a huge influence for you guys.
Oh yeah.
One of the things that I like about your game is, and I think we first saw this with NBA Hang Time, where you could put in a code to show the shot percentage of the shot going in when you take a jumper, and like if a defender's closer to you, then that shot has a less % chance of going in. That's how Basketball Classics is. If the guy's defended, or if there's a guy in the vicinity of him, then that shot has a less % chance of going in, and it's shown on the screen.
Right. Yeah. That was one of the things. You know, in a lot of ways, we tried to kind of stick to the sort of 8-bit era. That was one of the things where we just kind of decided, like, I really think, though this isn't true to the era, it would be a big improvement, you know, and something that players are used to these days from playing 2K and Live and stuff, where they have some more of that like shot feedback. So yeah, we brought that over, and with, you know, like you're saying, not only showing like the final shot score, but even breaking it down to here's like the offensive part of it and here's the defensive part of it because it was contested. And even showing, you know, it all just goes back to that, like helping the player understand why things are happening. Why did I not make that shot? Was it because it was a poor release? Was it because there was a defender too close?
Yeah. And you had brought up some stuff about like Tecmo. You guys have some hacks or whatever where you can see how the number of taps.
Yes.
Basically, like, yeah. Maybe you can tell me about that again.
Yeah, well, basically, if you get into a grapple or tussle when two players come together in Tecmo Super Bowl, there's a hack on the ROM where it tells you how many taps you are pressing the button in that grapple. So the guy who does the most taps wins, and the other guy goes flying, which we call popcorn. So he just gets tossed off. So the original game obviously doesn't have that number, even though it calculates it.
Yeah.
So the ROM that's used to play in these online leagues, they use that ROM, and it tells you how fast the guy's tapping.
Well, see, that's fascinating to me. It's like the game, Tecmo Super Bowl was so incredible as kids, but I think that it had a big renaissance when they opened up the code, you know, and they found out exactly what's going on because it makes it more transparent. You know what I mean? Like, the games that you don't know why things are happening, it's like either not fun or you can't trust it. You know,
Right.
you don't like it's your skill.
Mhm.
Well, I think two other games. One is RBI baseball. All the attributes are not shown within the game, but obviously you could feel that some players are faster, some of them have a bigger bat, like they could knock it way out of the stadium easier. Like you could feel those things. And then people who've looked into the code of that game have broken down all the attributes.
And like the pitchers have all kinds of different like speeds and there's multiple attributes. Yeah, RBI is fascinating too, but it's not until you take it apart that you can actually see that it was like that.
Yeah, and I think you just, the thing is, like, even though you couldn't see it like you can in Tecmo Super Bowl, you can feel it. Like you could definitely feel it.
Yeah.
But knowing it is another part of the depth. That, you know, if they would have created another one, they could have shown all those attributes to the end user.
Yeah.
So let me bring DPS and Sean into this conversation a little bit.
Congrats, DPS.
Yeah.
That was a heck of a win.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate that.
Yeah, DPS picks up games quick. You know, he holds it down there on Mondays. Him and Mort, probably the top two Iron Men that are there the whole time. And you know, not surprised he pulled it off with the Detroit basketball.
Wasn't even the Jazz.
Yeah, but it was a repeat. It's a repeat too.
Yeah.
You won last time
With Detroit the first time? I don't recall.
I don't remember who you won with last time.
Yeah, I think it was Detroit last time too. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Finals, but definitely the game before the finals. I was playing as the 04 Pistons most of the time, and then this time I went with 08. Though they were a little better, I noticed. I'm not sure if the ratings changed. I think they did a little bit.
Oh yes, yeah. From the last time you guys played till now, the ratings did change a little bit.
We saw a lot of that, and that was changed a lot of people's games. I think it helped overall since people weren't as overpowered.
Yeah.
So I think I played as Wilt for one game, or center for the 76 or Philadelphia in 1977, and he was awesome, you know. But then I know that LJC played as Jordan, you know, the 89.
Yeah.
Sorry, 89 for Chicago, and he was just so fast. It was like, oh my gosh, but it makes sense, you know. That's what he did, but it definitely was I thought it was great. I mean, I like the new features too. I thought it was a good change to go from just tapping to having a few different things. That was pretty cool. The chase down, which I got blocked to my first one because I didn't know it was going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
And then the new dunk feature. I mean, you know, I would like to hear from you guys, like why did you change the dunk feature, and what do you think about it now compared?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was all, honestly, it was all Josh's, the whole thing was all Josh's idea, the new dunk feature. So we can talk about that.
That's not how I remember it.
Okay.
I mean, it was driven from our conversations with Akihiko Shimoji, which he was the lead programmer on Tecmo Super Bowl, for any listeners who don't know who we're talking about. We had reached out to him and sent him a build of the game, and we had kind of some funny stories, our communications with him, but great guy. He's just awesome, super humble, just very gracious. He played the game, and he felt like the dunk was one area where we could really develop the game further. He liked it from the beginning, but he kind of gave us his guiding principles of game design, which we tried to incorporate throughout. And he said, like, specifically the dunk is one area that could be developed. He talked about, you know, maybe some almost like a fighting game type of an approach to it. And that's kind of what informed our changes there, where we really thought about it. Okay, like there's this one-on-one mini game. We have this chance where, like, I'm trying to outmaneuver the opponent. And so we kind of just took that advice and ran with it and ended up with the new dunk system.
So just to explain to the viewers what we're talking about, like Tecmo Super Bowl has cutscenes in between action plays. In Basketball Classics, it has the same thing, but you're actually pressing buttons to do things on screen that's going to dictate if you're going to score a basket or not. And for the change we're talking about, initially the first, or one of the build that we played first, if you went up for a dunk against another defender, you chose a cutscene and you just tap as fast as you can to see if you're going to get that dunk. Now it's changed to a few different animations. If you get a breakaway, then you just dunk it automatically. There's no one there. You get a cutscene. If there's a defender there, then they have a certain amount of moves based off their dunk rating, and then the defender has a certain amount of moves based off their block rating. When I first saw that, like how it looked, I was like, I don't know if I like this compared to how we were playing it before. But then once we played it, I understood what you guys were going for with it. And I think my brother said it as we were playing Monday night. He's like, you know, now I'm like on an even playing field with you guys on these interactions, because, like, for instance, out of all of us, Mort's probably the fastest tapper. And so if we got into a blocking situation with him, he would just block us, or he'd be able to dunk on us unless we had like a way better player. Now it's like, it's the guessing element. You either go up or down, and you see how many moves they go for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my brother.
So I like it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, Reggie Jackson. Was it Reggie Jackson for the Eagles? The defender?
Reggie White.
Reggie White. Jackson's for the Detroit. Anyway, he would always use Reggie White on defense, and I'm a big runner in Tecmo Super Bowl, but he always shut me down because he just taps faster. Like every time. He wins every tap and every grapple. Yeah. But I don't mind grappling. I think it's fun. But depending on how often you dunked in the game, you get a little sore. Like, you know, you guys play like 7-hour tournaments, maybe even more, of Tecmo. I'm sure by the end it's a little tiring.
Yeah, the one tournament we did in September, we played like 13 games minimum. People were complaining of cramps in that one, but otherwise it's usually pretty good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
one of the things with the original, where the original, like, it showed a basketball at the bottom that would move left or right towards the offense or defense, which it was displaying the probability of the dunk. But a situation that we would still run into with a lot of players is, you know, that ball would be 3/4 of the way over towards my guy, and then I would lose it. And players just found that kind of frustrating. Like, well, that was like almost all the way over. Why didn't I win that?
right.
And so, you know, just going back to my earlier point of like, we wanted our players to always know, like, why they won or lost a certain mini game or a certain scenario. And that was just one of those spots where we're like, okay, if we're like visually showing where the dunker is, where the blocker is, then there's no confusion about, like, why did I not successfully dunk that time?
Yeah, and I think you pick that up within a few times of dunking. Like, it's not a steep learning curve. Like, the first few times you're like, what am I doing? But then, like, oh, I see, I have to match where they're going to try to block it and go either all the way down or middle or up. So I think that works out well. Sean, I know you played basketball class for the first time on Monday, and you were a fan. So, talk about like why you may like a game like Basketball Classics in comparison to, we'll say NBA 2K, like because you played that some. So, what do you think?
So I mean, yeah, like he said, it was the first time I played it, and first game I played against Morton. I was kind of clueless, and I kind of felt like I wasn't sure what I was doing, but it felt like a Nintendo game. It felt like the classic game, so I like got a hang of it probably within the first quarter or two, and then so we pulled away like 10 points right away, and it stayed at 10 points the rest of the game because it was easy to get a hold of. Like it's just like any other Nintendo kind of feel, and it just felt normal, and so what I liked about it and compared to like the 2K games and things like all the newer games is that, the 2K games, you kind of have like the drift and it feels like too real sometimes. And it's like, it's not always what I want out of a video game. So it's like, goes back to that retro feel that I love going back into play. And so having that ability to just be able to move back and forth real quick, make passes, like, have to angle, like the passing was frustrating at first because, you had to point to where you want to pass. And sometimes I'm trying to like move it to a pass and don't move it to the right person. I throw it down in the middle and ball gets stolen, but eventually you get used to the point where you got to like actually point it more toward them. And so it felt more like the Tecmo NBA basketball, all the like classic games that I like enjoyed and liked playing basketball games, even like NBA Live games, but like kind of that feel. Then like the shooting was kind of cool at the same time because it's very similar to 2K in the way that they tell you if you're too early or too late, and so you know why you miss, why you make, and so like what made it even better is it was like a certain percentage. So it's like if you get 60 and you miss, you're kind of frustrated, but it's like, well, it wasn't 100, and then you make like a 30, and it's like, well, cool, that was cool, but like it's just knowing knowing how good of a chance you had to actually make it is it's awesome. So I mean, I loved all that about it, and so the defense can be frustrating just because like I try to steal the ball a lot and it slows me down, which makes sense. It's a great like adjustment to defense because you shouldn't be able to just walk around blast and steal and like running right around with them. So I like it at the same time that it annoyed me because I wanted to be faster, but it's a good adjustment to the game to like keep it at a level playing field. So I mean, in comparison to 2K games, like it's the classic feel that you want in a game.
Thank you so much. That's very nice of you.
Right.
And were you Memphis against DPS?
I think no, wait, no, DPS was Memphis, I think.
Oh, DPS was Memphis.
And I was Portland.
That was a dang good game.
Yeah, that was. I mean, it was like the third game I played. So I mean, that's what I mean. It was like I caught on real quick, and like I lost bad to Mort, and then the next two games I played, I lost by like a basket in both the games I played. So it was like you catching on real quick and be able to play with apparently the best one because he wins every game. So it was fun.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I went home and bought the game actually like the next day. So it was like that's how much I wanted it.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What do we want to say about like Basketball Classics versus 2K?
2K. I think here's one question for you because we're not huge into 2K, and I think it's kind of hard to compare. Some people have been like, "Oh, this game is the best." Now I'm never buying 2K again. Like this places 2K and whatever. And I think that's really cool, but I think it's hard to compare the two like strictly. But
yeah.
But my thing with my brothers play 2K all the time, and so often they blame the computer. They're blaming the computer constantly on the shots, or on whatever. It's always the computer's just giving you stuff, And I don't know if that's just them, or if because in this day and age, like we've got the rubber banding that everybody knows about in NBA Jam. Right, it made it so that the computer was literally cheating, and everybody knew that the computer is never going to let you win. But now I think with 2K, it's so sophisticated that you don't know Like you don't know how much the computer is like controlling what's happening. You know, I don't know how you feel in terms of like how much you trust what the computer is doing versus your own input with 2K.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and you see it in a lot of like newer sports games because I know like I think a lot of it has to do with like the difficulty level you play on because like I'll play like an NHL game and I'll turn it up to like the hardest difficulty and I'll get like 50 shots on net and they'll have like 15 and they'll beat me 3-2 and it's just like something's not right here. Like the difficulty shouldn't mean that their goalie becomes a superstar and mine sucks. Like it should be like a balance of the whole game. And so, and I think in 2K, I think that's like the same thing. It's like when you turn up the difficulty, you all of a sudden can't make shots and they can instead of just leveling the playing field. And so I think that's what happens in some of the newer games sometimes, especially when you get up to the really higher difficulties, is they kind of just like choose one or two things to really beef and take down in certain spots for each players.
Okay, so yeah, like you can sense kind of what they're, because I think with NBA Jam, for example, it was just the shot score. It seemed like it. It's like every shot. No, I think it was more than just the shot score. Like with the rubber banding at least.
But you would not make any shots at all, no matter if it was a dunk or a 2 or a 3. Like when Joseph and I played NBA Jam at SNES, and it was just unbelievable. I missed like 4 dunks in a row on fire.
Dunks on fire.
Yeah. It's gonna happen. Like, this is crazy.
Okay, so they nerf the team that's ahead as well as basically give the computer every advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's spicy, yeah.
And they shove you all the time. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
They won't lose the ball. I shoved them like 5 times in a row. They won't lose the ball. It's like, wow. There's no getting around it. You just get lucky whenever you do finally get some points. You're like, oh, okay, cool.
See, but that's my point. Is it's like you know that's happening. You can kind of tell that they're doing that. But as games get more and more sophisticated, it's like, how much is this thing playing me right now? Like, does it know how many games I've won, or like, does it know how badly that I like to win by a certain amount and decide what it's going to take for me right now? I don't know.
It makes sense. One of the complaints of those games, you know, so obviously now they just hide it a little better.
Yeah, I think so. I think they really hide it a ton better.
So you guys, one of the things that you did recently was talk to one of the guys who developed Tecmo Super Bowl, and I want to pronounce his name correctly, so maybe you guys could say it for me. Akiko Shimoji, is that how you pronounce it?
Akihiko.
Okay, so you talked to him. What advice did he give you, and how has that been implemented into your most recent update?
You want me to?
Yeah.
Let me just say this. The guy credited with making Tecmo NBA basketball, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Another guy.
It's not Akihiko and Tomi. Lives basically down the street from us. I had no idea, right? Like I went and looked into it much later to find out who this guy is. Not only that, he like lives really nearby here in Utah. We're in Utah. You can't tell. And he works with one of my friends who on like other games now. And so I was like, oh great, I'm going to be able to talk to this guy about the game, about Tecmo NBA. And he just chose not to respond. I can't say why or why not, whatever.
Right.
He didn't respond, right? Then, you know, Akihiko Shiboji, if that's how you pronounce his name, in Japan, somehow responds to like our our Facebook message. It's like, hey, we love Tecmo so much. We think you're the best. You know, would you want any part of this game we're trying to make? You know, and he's like, well, I've really retired from making games, and so he doesn't, you know, he didn't want to do it in any official capacity, but he totally downloads the game, plays the game, and comes back with translated like lists of things that we could do. You know, I'm like, this guy's so cool. He's awesome.
Very cool. But so some of those things that he talked about were what, like the rhythm of the game, always paying attention to the rhythm and the flow, and just being kind of just keeping the players like in the zone where the game is just flowing properly. And you know, one way that they did that was with all these cutscenes that they had created. Like changing the length of those, and how often do we cut away to them, and being willing to even throw them away when needed to keep the game flowing and keep the player involved. And so that was one piece of feedback that we really took to heart. What else?
Well, I think the biggest thing is he said the sensation, like the sensation of playing, which is different than the reality of the game. You know, let's make like a really close simulation of what basketball is, but it's the sensation of playing, and that's what Tecmo Super Bowl does. Is it you feel like you're the coach, you know, you feel like you're the quarterback, you feel like you're the running back, you feel like you're getting the sensation of the game when it's not realistic at all.
Right.
You know, I mean, Tecmo Super Bowl is not realistic. In some ways it is, but overall, you can't throw a 150-yard pass with that kind of accuracy, you know, or people don't speed up to 5 times their rate later down, you know, depending on how long somebody else has the ball. But that's the sensation of the game. So I thought that was pretty fascinating.
Yeah. And I really wonder if you worked on some of the later games in the Tecmo Super Bowl series, because I think that sensation slowly lost, like you lost it, just by making the players a little bit slower and stuff. Whereas that's one of the things about Tecmo Super Bowl that's so great, is that the player speeds, you can really feel the difference between each player, their passing speeds on the quarterback, like you could feel everything, and they're just 8-bit players.
Yeah. Oh, totally. But an NBA Jam totally understood that. They understood the sensation.
Yes.
Right? I mean, it's has nothing to do with any of the past basketball games. It was just like, I want to flip like this, and I want to be on fire with the basketball. So I think they nailed that.
So we got in the chat, we got KDP saying, love Basketball Classics, such a sweet game, and my 10-year-old loves playing it too. Keep up the good work, guys.
Cute.
And so you guys created a couple graphics in comparison of how you kept Tecmo Super Bowl in mind when you were creating this game. So I'm going to share those now, and then we could go over them.
Sweet, cool.
So let's take a look at the first one here. So one of the things that you guys, so let me know, everyone, if you could see this on screen or not. All right, might have to hold on one second. But was one of the things is the proportions?
Yeah. Yeah, the proportions.
Okay, so
Sure.
All right, here we go. So talk about this graphic a little bit.
So while Josh is introducing me to the idea of basketball classics, it was like we just wanted it to be as close to Tecmo as we could. And let me just say that I've thought about this. The funnest time I've had playing video games, any kind of video game in any capacity, in arcade or like online multiplayer or just on my phone, anything. There's nothing to me funner than like a 8 to 16 player local Tecmo Super Bowl tournament with brackets. You know, that's just the funnest it gets. And so I've always had that like dream in mind that to be able to make a game that would be just partially that fun. So much of what we did, we were asking ourselves, what did Tecmo do in this situation?
Yeah.
And so with the proportions, we literally were just like, it just feels right. I think you pointed it out to be like, look at this menu. Like it's this perfect, the menu is absolutely perfect. Or the picking your plays is this genius piece of artwork. And I think that the difference between Tecmo Bowl and then into Tecmo Super Bowl, the 1 to 10 ratio of the players is a big deal to me.
Yeah, I don't like the larger players in Tecmo Bowl. There was something about the size of the players in Tecmo Super Bowl that just always felt right. It gave you enough room on the field to work with, to find and create openings. And yeah, it's just a great look.
Yeah, I think one of the guys that's like the best Tecmo Bowl player, his name's Brad Bell. He said that was one of the things he didn't like about Tecmo Super Bowl was the smaller players on the field. But hearing you talk about it, I hear what you're saying. Like, there's a little more space to like create wiggle room and pull off jukes that people don't even think was possible in the game.
Yeah, and so from day one, we knew that we wanted there to be plays in the game. We wanted the plays to be usable because we had tried them in other games like Tecmo NBA, where the plays were just too hard to understand or seemed like they didn't even work, or in later games they would just get too complicated with them. And so we wanted to come up with some kind of an easy play system where you could easily, quickly call them and understand what's going on in the court. And we knew that we would need the smaller ratio of player to court that would allow you to find those openings and really work the plays. Because, we played like so many basketball games, dozens, as we were kind of in pre-production on our game. And we just kept seeing that there were so many basketball games where the player's height, like on the court, they would cover a third or a half of the court, like of the vertical space of the court. And it just got so crowded for 5-on-5.
Yeah.
And so we knew that was one thing we were going to have to do.
Well, an NBA Jam, our arch rivals before it understood that, and so they just took out 3 players.
Right.
They just said, well, it's too cramped, so we don't need everybody. And so that, yeah, we just felt like in order to have space to do strategy, we wanted to keep the proportions like that.
Definitely makes sense that you need space to work and to play the game the way you want it to be played. So let's take a look at the next graphic here. It's about the cutscenes in Tecmo Super Bowl compared to basketball classics. And in the Tecmo Super Bowl, you're showing the punting graphic, and then here on your side is the chase down dunk or chase down block.
Yeah. And that goes back to what Josh was saying from Akihiko. Like, if you look at the rhythm of their cutscenes, It's just it just feels so good. Like even the you guys call them the JJs, right?
Oh yeah, the jumping
JJs.
catches, that jumping jackass.
Like it just feels right. The length of time that they're in the air, and then landing. You know, whether or not they catch it, the little land. It's just like the right amount of time the cutscenes are, and it feels like your rhythm keeps with you because then once you get it, you're off to the races.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas some of the games that have cutscenes, if you don't do it right, you know it's going to be it's just jarring. You know, it takes you out of it.
Arch Rivals is a perfect example of that. I think it shows like the ref blowing the whistle between each score or something like that. 2 points. Like that in itself can ruin someone's experience, just showing that graphic every time you score. I think my brother complained about that. Like, do we have to see this every time? Like, this doesn't make sense.
That's exactly right. That's it, totally. And it's somebody being like, this will be funny. We have to do this. This is going to be so funny. But and therefore, like, let's toss the gameplay aside for a minute and do this joke 50 times per game.
Yeah, and so that was one thing with Tecmo. The way that the cutscenes pull you into the game, you know, it's like a close-up shot. It's like you're looking at from this wide angle as you're playing, and then you're getting a close-up of this cool piece of the action, and then back out. And it never feels jarring. You never feel like you're pulled out of the game. It's like it almost brings you into the game. And that was one thing that we really wanted to do. You know, we felt like this was one way that you can see the players in more detail than you normally can in normal gameplay. And so, yeah, you can jump right in there and see the dunk in high detail, and then we're back out at the normal game. And hopefully it's not jarring at all. There were a lot of cutscenes that we did, like during development, that actually were jarring, and we ended up throwing them out, or in some cases, like the player celebrations, for instance, like sometimes when you'll make a 3, how they only cover part of the screen, or when you call a play and you're bringing your players across the screen and you see the guy like in detail, but he only covers like 20% of the screen, so that you can still see what's happening on the court and where your players are going, as opposed to just cutting away, which was something we had initially done, like a full screen cutscene of them calling a play, and then we would cut to the gameplay, and it's like you lose 2 seconds trying to figure out where are my players now, what happened. And so those were some other instances where we kind of messed with the cutscene formula to try and keep the players, you know, keep that flow.
And Tecmo is just so beautiful. Like, it's still graphically, I can't believe just like the celebrations and
just the art of it.
It's like the kicks, like the way the ball's flying through the uprights, and I mean, it's just awesome.
Yeah, the suspense is there every time, you know?
Yeah. Yes.
So I know this isn't part of this graphic, but you guys, for the players that are on the court, when they have the ball or you're controlling them on defense, their profile picture shows at the top of the screen, which is something different than Tecmo Super Bowl. It actually shows you the player face as you're playing. And not only that, they have emotions. So can you talk a little bit about your addition or adding that to your game versus what you saw in Tecmo Super Bowl?
Yeah, sure. I just quickly, I spent several months of time on these player profile pics, and the whole time Josh is like, I don't know, I don't think people are really looking up there. It just got kind of fun for me to go through a whole bunch of you know, turning pictures, turning people's faces into 8-bit profiles is really fun for me. anyway, so I liked doing it, and then having the little bit of animation, kind of like from, yeah, it was really fun. But I'm glad you guys picked up on it, that you were noticing it. You know, especially like when you're trying to guess who people are. Yeah. Anyway,
Well, I think it adds a lot to it, to be honest with you. To have their picture up there so you can see who that guy is, because in 8-bit form, you know, you can't really see who that guy is, but when he's on the top, you're like, oh, that's the guy I am. So I think it adds a lot to it, and it's something you look at. And then even you have the stats up there, or the attributes up there too. So, you know, if you didn't get a chance to check that out before, then you could see that right next to the player face as you're passing the ball along. So I think that's a nice touch too.
thank you.
Because you can't have players' names in this. Obviously, you don't have the license to the NBA for it. So, you know, having that stuff there, you might not remember who small forward on the 2008 Memphis Grizzlies is, you know. So having that up there accessible to you is a nice thing to have.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome.
All right, so we have one last graphic here that you guys created.
I think that's the first one we looked
Oh yeah, that's the first one. Let me get the right one up on screen here. And it's about player speed. So talk a little bit about this one. You got Bo Jackson up there and shooting guard Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah, he's really fast. That guy is way fast. But this was like a big part of there was this big kind of controversy of whether or not we're going to have turbo in the game, right? Because NBA Jam's got turbo, and I just kind of live with that thing on, you know, at least on the Super Nintendo, I just got the trigger on constantly. But Tecmo, as far as I know, is one of the few, if maybe the only game on the NES that used dynamic player speed. Like players had different speeds in different situations, right? And that's the way they got the juke going. That's the way that they set players apart. I mean, it was like speed was pretty much the thing, you know. And so we want it to be that way with this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have like a defensive speed, an offensive speed, and a speed ramp, and how different players can, you know, the way the speed ramp increases or gets reset if you try and steal or block. Lots of speed, but yeah, I mean, it's the most important attribute in the game for sure.
Whereas something like, I mean, DPS could speak to this, but like something like NBA Jam, I don't know that speed. Well, speed is a little different in NBA Jam than it is in Tecmo. You know, where would you rank speed as importance in NBA Jam?
I mean, it's very important. It's one of the top few attributes, but yeah, I agree. It's not the most important one. You look at speed, power, 3-pointers, dunks. You know, pretty much your top 4 attributes, and they can go in different ways. But speed can be beaten with injury in NBA Jam TE. You know, so you can kind of get away with that. But the speed does help you catch people. But I definitely agree that it's different in Tecmo Super Bowl. In Super Bowl, speed will kill you. You make one mistake and it's 7 points.
Yeah,
so it's a big difference than 2 points in a basketball game.
Really? So when you're looking at players on NBA Jam, like you're considering their speed up there, like top 3?
Yeah.
Well, I think in TE it matters more. NBA Jam TE.
Yeah, and TE especially. NBA Jam on NBA Jam original, not as much. But
okay.
definitely matters a lot more.
Because it's like,
What are we looking at?
because let me just understand something real quick here. This dude, he's got. Does he have top speed? I don't remember if Stockton had top speed.
He has full speed. I'm pretty sure.
Full speed. But it was like the way you guys were talking about it. I learned quite a bit from your guys' breakdown of NBA Jam. But basically, Stockton, even though he's got full speed, is kind of unusable in the game because he's just one of the small players.
Right. Small, obviously the height thing. So that does become a factor. If you're a small guy, you know, it's definitely, you're not as good as the big guys, pretty much. You don't have as much reach, it seems, at least. You know, I don't think that, maybe Joseph could speak to that better than me, but it doesn't seem like you have the same reach as the big guys, which makes sense. But it also is not necessarily true. Sometimes you may be able to run wild with a small guy, you know, but I definitely would take a big guy over a small guy if I had the choice.
But that's defense. You're saying it's because of defense mostly, right?
Even on offense, right? So you can get blocked easier. The tall guys will block you on shots easier. You know.
Okay. But speed's really important. But if you're not big in NBA Jam, then it's not gonna. You can't compete.
But it helps you get away from people, right? So if you've got a small guy who's quick versus a big guy who's slow, you know, then you can get away from him, maybe get an open shot compared to where you wouldn't with a slow guy, of course.
Yeah.
Back to what we were talking about too, about the speed in Basketball Classics and Tecmo Super Bowl, the dynamic speed. On the NES, there were 2 games before Tecmo Super Bowl that have this dynamic speed. You just can't access it to see it. One we already talked about was RBI Baseball. There's players that are obviously way faster on the bases than other players. And the other one is the original Tecmo Bowl. The guys in that game all have unique attributes, and you can definitely feel them when you play the game. Like Bo Jackson is the fastest player in that game as well. And then you put him up against like Dallas's running back, I forget who it is. He's way slower. And then even the quarterbacks have passing speed in that game. So it does exist in those games. It's just not something that you can access their player profiles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But back to this. So you're saying like, Bo Jackson, Lawrence Taylor, QB Eagles, because of their speed, that's the guys you want to use. It's the same thing with, shooting guard Chicago in Basketball Classics. He has all that speed. You could get easy open shots. You can move around guys easier to go for a dunk without having to press, 5 other buttons to try to cross them over, spin move, or do all these other things. It's just all about the speed. You just got to get creative with it on the court. And that's, like you said, probably the most important attribute that you have. Whereas you compare it in Tecmo Super Bowl to the zigzags that you perform once you're breaking away on a run.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like the breakaway. If you've noticed, players, Sean was talking about how he likes to steal, but when you go to steal, it slows you down. Same with on Tecmo, you go to dive. If you're going to dive, that's a real risky deal.
Right.
So, not only that, but as time goes on, the defense just gets so fast, and it's the same thing with our game. The longer that the possession goes for the offense, the faster the defense gets. Right?
Yeah.
Isn't it just like this ramp?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But every time you attempt to steal, it resets that speed ramp. So there is a penalty to just spamming the steal button.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Speed in Tecmo Super Bowl, comparable in Basketball Classics. So let's talk about a little bit more about the gameplay, because I have some questions, and even about one of the graphics that we see on the screen on the Basketball Classics side. You see the streak behind the player, And that's one thing when I played it that I didn't necessarily understand how that was happening. So can you talk a little bit about what creates that streak and what it does on screen?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think that's Josh, right?
Maybe. So the pink streak that we're looking at here in this graphic, that's all related to the isolation play. So when you call an isolation play, not only do your other teammates try and stay out of your way, but when you hit X to enact it, you just get this speed boost that's kind of highlighted by this pink trail behind your player. But it's a short boost, and it's dependent on your players, a couple of their attributes that kind of drive that, how long it lasts and how much it affects their speed. But so you can kind of use it to get around your defender like it's showing here in the graphic.
The other thing I see on here is like some icons. So like if you see on this graphic, it says SG, and then there's like a 3, a lightning, and one other thing. What do those mean?
Good. Yeah. So that was kind of something we liked in 2K and a lot of the new games, where you want to be able to see what somebody's good at without having to like really quickly, right? Just know if you got the ball with this person, are they a good 3-point shooter? If so, then they're going to have the 3 box, right?
Right.
So that means they're a good shooter, and by good, I think it's 70 or above on the attribute. The lightning is for your dunk score. So, like the center there, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar-esque player has like a power dunk, right? So that's that one, and then the one that's got the 3 lines, that is for offensive speed, and then the one that has the other center, the blue guy, that has the little like D looking thing with the like flames going out. That's defensive speed. So they're like little symbols to try to show you, that you can hopefully people might pick up on eventually, to just be like, yeah, this guy's good at 3-pointers, so I'll take one with him.
He's got a couple others there. He's got like a thief, for stealing.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the hand for blocking. So yeah, it's like if that player is 70 or higher in any of those attributes, those icons were just kind of a quick way to call those out. And we never added those to the game manual.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Those are that's something that we'll have to do to kind of clarify those a bit.
And that's something that you're not going to see, like the hand, the block. There's very few people that are great blockers in the league, and there's very few people that are really great at stealing. So they're a little bit more rare, almost like your Haddocks and your Fulcher. It's rare to have just like these elite interceptors, I think. But yeah, that's another.
I was thinking as we were talking through this, what basketball games I seen these icons in first. And I may be wrong about this because I haven't checked into it. But what game do you think implemented this first? Because I have a game in mind where I think I saw it.
Oh, good. That's a good question. Basketball game?
Yes.
I don't think NBA Live 95 had it. Maybe.
No, that's too early.
That was too early.
There's definitely an NBA Live game that does have those icons. I think it was like maybe 04, 03. But there's a game on the Xbox that I think showed these icons under the players first, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways,
what's that?
It's NBA Inside Drive. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that game.
You are better than we are. Like yeah.
I never played that one.
Inside Drive.
NBA Inside Drive. You should check it out because what I like about that game is the teams really do a good job of like running offensive plays. It's a game made by High Voltage Software, which is that was a company that dealt with Midway before when they were making some of these NBA Jam games. So it's a pretty good game. I would check it out if you've never played it before.
That's cool that it wasn't live or 2K.
I don't think it was. I think I saw it first in that game, and then like the next NBA Live had those icons because I thought they were a good way of showing what this player is good at without having to look through menus.
Yeah.
High Voltage, did they do Blitz?
They may have done Blitz. I'm not 100% sure. I mean, the first game I seen it on was NBA Jam TE for the Atari Jaguar. They did that one.
Okay. Cool. Wow.
So we'll have to look at a list of what High Voltage was involved with, but yeah, NBA Inside Drive was one of them. All right, so DPS and Sean, do you have any questions for these guys about the gameplay? What you've experienced, what you like about it?
Or not like about it, like what you'd change. Weird, we totally want to hear.
One question I had was like, what made you choose the certain years that you did for all the the teams and stuff? You jump from like 89 to 98 and like from 80, like why those years? Was there certain reasons for each of those years?
That's
the years where Utah did well.
Stop it. Is it 98? 2004? No, I don't think Utah was even in the playoffs in 2004, were they? I don't think so. Anyway.
Well, it started with 1990.
Yeah.
We wanted the game to be 1990.
Yeah, like it was Tecmo.
Yeah,
yeah.
Exactly. And that was just, that was just a golden era, for the sport. And
right.
We had,
with the hoops cards, you're talking about?
Right. We were big basketball card collectors from that era. We were familiar with a lot of the players and the stats.
And you guys can get behind 1990 with Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. You still had Magic Johnson in the league, Larry Bird. Their careers were winding down, but they were still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, tons of just legendary players. But so then from there, I think it just kind of grew. We were like, well, we already have this whole game engine and all of this infrastructure. We could just quickly plug in these other rosters.
Yeah.
It ended up being maybe not quite as quick as we had hoped. Just putting those rosters together and the profile picks and all that. A ton of work, but yeah, we just figured we might as well let the players choose, from these various years. But as far as how we selected specific years,
I just kind of looked, I asked around, and 1977 is this super pivotal year. Right. You've got Dr. J. I'm sorry, this is in the NBA. It was a super pivotal year. So maybe we wanted to, kind of.
I think 85 was the first year, though, right, in the game? Or is it
77? 77 is the first year. Yeah.
77.
Then 85.
89, 90, 91. I think we have all three of those.
Yeah.
The 98.
And then we got a little 98 action. 2004. 2008. And then 15, 16, or 16, 17, and 18. Mm-hmm. But I don't know what years you guys. do you wish there were?
Well, we got a question from the chat. It's from Green Magic, and he says, "Why so few teams from the '90s?"
Yeah, that was kind of like, toward the Bulls' golden years is kind of what I was wondering. A lot of good MJ years there in the '90s, and kind of skipped to the end of them.
I
Got the
think
last
you
year
answered
of
the
the
question.
champion.
You answered the question, Sean. They didn't like Utah losing those championships.
Yeah.
Let's skip all those Jordan years.
I
Get the '99.
will definitely up like a 94. There's some pivotal players, like a certain center for the Lakers
That needs more love.
From the,
Right.
like 94, 95 in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll continue to fill out the rosters, but we'd love any suggestions people have. Throw them out.
96 Bulls.
He was just the NBA Jam years, like at least one of them, so we could, it'd be cool to play as team, that, that Sonics team, that Bulls team.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think that'd be really cool, those guys. Plus, considering we play that game, to go different versions of those teams will be fun.
Like 94, 95?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think like 94. You don't get shooting guard Chicago necessarily, but you get your Houston team. It's gonna be really good. The Magic with center Magic is gonna be really good. Probably.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Definitely note taken.
I was impressed by the variety that you guys have already offered with the team selection. But one of the questions I have is, what made you decide to go with just the starting five and not have any bench players?
Yeah, that's a good question too. That's a good question. And partially it seems like quite a bit more work, even though that was really impressive about Tecmo NBA, is that they had all 12 players for every team, and it, like, you could be smart with your subs and stuff like that. So that was cool. But we figured, because we don't even have names, the idea of putting in a player that's not as good, even though they might be like a little bit better at 3-point shooting maybe, but slower in general, we just didn't think it would be there would be a big enough impact. When you're making a game, there's so many things you want to do compared to the things that you can do. And that was one of those that we felt like it would be really cool, but we didn't feel like we could put the resources to it.
Yeah, not as important as some other features we knew we wanted. There's a couple of questions, like how familiar are people with, the deeper you get down the team roster, the deeper you get down the bench, like, do people know those players? And like Dave's saying, like, you would swap in SG Chicago for SG Chicago. Like, how do you communicate that is one question without names.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I loved putting Bobby Hansen in Tecmo NBA basketball and missing every shot.
Yeah, you can be Chicago. You got to be Bobby Hansen, though.
Yeah, every three you take, and out of the game.
Guys, how much time how long have you been working on this game to get it where it's at now?
Coming up on 3 years.
Yeah, almost an embarrassing amount of time.
Very beginning, let's see, 2 days before the Super Bowl in February of 2016 is when we first discussed it.
Yeah.
So it's been a while.
And has it mainly just been you two guys working on it, or have there been others helping you out with certain things?
The only other thing, we've had some other guys come in and look at like helping us out with online multiplayer, but that's been it. That didn't really go anywhere. So as of now, yeah, it's just been the two of us. Dave's handled all of the stats, all of the art. Every pixel you see was all hand drawn by Dave, and I did all the programming and the sound and music.
We also talked to some publishers. We tried to get some publishers on board, hoping that they'd have some good input as well. But the amount that we did talk with publishers, they didn't really like talking about the game itself. They just wanted to let us make the game.
Right.
I would say honestly, Akihiko, you guys, and there's another podcast, the NLSC podcast. They've been really cool too. So it's really just from cool, supportive people like you guys that have been as helpful as anybody else. My brothers, maybe, we'll have them play test stuff. They've been doing a lot about 2K, but in terms of actually making the game, Josh did all the sound as well. I don't know if you mentioned that.
Yeah, well. I was going to comment on that. I love the music in this game.
Thank you.
There's a few of the jingles or whatever. Like I noticed in between quarters, the music changes. I definitely had a few of those stuck in my head after playing this game.
Well, thank you. It's very nice.
Because that was another thing about Tecmo Super Bowl. The music is incredible. It sets the tone and the mood. You have different music for preseason, and then when the ball switches sides, it's different music. And then you go into regular season, you got its own music. And then playoffs is amped up. You're ready to go. You better be on your best game, or you're going down to the New York Giants in the first round. Because LT's juiced up. He's coked up.
Yeah.
Seriously, the music was one thing, just like the visuals, like Akihiko talked about, just keeping that rhythm, keeping the player interested. One of the great things in Tecmo Super Bowl is the way the music will change, like you're saying. When there's a turnover, music changes. Even the way the music stops when you're calling a play and then starts up when you call the play. It's genius. And so that was one thing that really drove a lot of our decision making as far as the audio. We wanted the music to change with each quarter, where it's getting kind of more and more intense as a match progresses. Little cut away to different music when there's a turnover. Just those different situations where you're not just hearing the same, Tecmo NBA, come on, you said the music's good, but it's 20 seconds on loop the entire game, never changes, no matter what. It's a little grating to me.
It's not enough of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up a game that recently came out. It's an arcade style 2-on-2 game that I've played the first one and watched people play the second one. Is NBA Playgrounds. Have you guys played that game?
A little bit.
Well, that game has taken everything that made NBA Jam fun and simple and just made it a mess, in my opinion.
Tom's not a fan. I knew this just hearing your guys' streams. I'm like, Tom does not like playgrounds.
Here's a perfect example. I'm playing the game. I got Zach LaVine on a breakaway dunk. And you know Zach LaVine. He's Zach on the
LaVine. Yeah.
But he's, won the dunk contest twice. And I'm going up on a breakaway, and I'm pressing the button, and I didn't hit the shot meter. There's a shot meter for a dunk, first of all. Because I didn't tap the button right. He throws like a behind the back layup at the rim and misses. And I'm like,
Okay.
what is this game? And I thought the second time around in NBA Playgrounds 2, they would have corrected it and taken the shot meter out. But no, it's the same thing. You have to be like super precise with this button press to make shots. And even so, there's all these missed dunks, and they're not attributed to rubber band AI or anything. It's just this horrible meter. You guys have a shot meter in Basketball Classics, but it's, you know, it's very doable. Like, you have time to react to the actual meter, whereas this, not so much. So, like, gameplay-wise, playing the two games, I mean, Basketball Classics is so much better of a game than even something like that. And that's a 2K published game now, and it's
no big deal.
even though the art style is great, it's got the NBA license, it's just not good. It's just not.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, from what I remember, it was announced after we had started working on our game.
Yeah.
And, you know, at that point, beginning of 2016, it had been a long time since there had been any, like, arcade-style basketball. You know, it had just been the two big ones, NBA Live and 2K, back and forth. And they had just kind of taken the genre in this certain direction of hyper-simulation, where we just felt like there was room for something else, something that focused maybe more on fun than realism. And so we started working on our game, and then they announced NBA Playgrounds, and there was a little bit of a like, oh no, are they gonna, you know, kind of do what we're going for? But it ended up being different enough. I mean, very different. So there's room for both.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking to play a 2-on-2 arcade basketball game that has better graphics, then you're better off going with the EA remake of NBA Jam. Like,
Yeah.
there's stuff about that I don't love, but I think overall it's a great game.
Yeah, that one was good. Like in 2010 or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was good. Way fun.
So, but yeah, that's not a recommendation for NBA Playgrounds.
Yeah.
So what's your ultimate goal with this game? Because I know you guys got it on Steam right now. I believe it's $9.99. For those of you that don't know, because this is a retro sports gaming channel, Steam is a gaming network that you can play games on your PC, and they're digital copies of the game. So what's your ultimate goal for this game? Is it just to keep getting it out there wherever you can, or?
Hey, if we could get this thing onto an NES cartridge, that would be incredible. That would be so cool. But I don't think that's possible yet. I mean, maybe someday somebody's gonna like make a cartridge that you can kind of emulate. I don't know. But no, we've got to get it onto consoles for sure. We've been shooting for consoles.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I guess we shot for like iOS.
Yeah, I mean, so we currently have a build that runs well on iOS and Android. It runs on Linux. We have plans to bring it to the Atari box if that ever happens. We've had a lot of talk with Atari. Yeah, I mean, we think the Switch is really kind of the best fit. It already, you know, it comes with the two controllers that break off that just have the 4 buttons and the D-pad. It's just kind of built around local multiplayer. It would just be an awesome fit. We'd love to get on PlayStation and Xbox too. But, you know, our first goal, right now we're in early access on Steam, which is just kind of a way for players to purchase and play games that are still in development. So once we hit our 1.0 and do a full release on Steam, then we'll really start looking at consoles. But we would love to hear from you guys. Like, where would you prefer to play the game? What platforms would you be on?
I have Xbox One, so if you
Yeah.
can get it, I'd play it every day.
Xbox One for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I got a PS4 and I play it on my computer on a PS4 controller, so I'm
Oh, yeah.
already used to that. So
Yeah, full controller support was like must have for us. We did not want people
Yeah.
playing it with a keyboard. It works with keyboard, you can play it, but controller's where it's at.
Yeah, I think with those two that they mentioned, PS4 and Xbox One, the cool thing about both of those consoles is you can stream straight from the console.
Yeah.
So, you know, having it on PS4, Xbox, you have people playing it and stream it right, you know, hitting the share button. I know that's one of the options that I love about the PlayStation 4 is it's so easy to just start streaming live on YouTube or Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, you know, that's something to think about if it could ever happen that people might be broadcasting this game.
Yeah.
I brought this platform up to you guys on Monday night, and I listened to a podcast of the guy who's creating the console is the Intellivision Amico.
Right.
Heck yeah.
Yes, so this is one that I think is going to actually come out versus maybe the Atari box that you were talking about. But we'll see. But anyways, I really listening to the creator because the guy originally worked for Intellivision or worked with Intellivision, and one of his visions for the console is that you can create a system that's not only like across, like basically what I'm trying to say is like a 10-year-old girl could play a 70-year-old grandpa, and there's those type of games on this console. So, you know, it's not an intimidating look of the system itself, and it's games that are easy pick up and play. And I just thought playing Basketball Classics and us picking it up so quick that it would be a good fit on there when that thing comes out.
Yeah. Somebody even had passed me this maybe it was just that like initial video of it. I'd love to see the podcast. Is it with the Tommy Tallarico guy?
Yes, I'll send it to you. There was one with Re-Res 2, I believe. They did an hour-and-a-half interview with him.
Yeah.
Because they were questioning, you know, the look of it and if it's going to be successful. But then when I listened to him talk about it, like he totally sold me on the idea.
Really?
Because, yeah, that's one of the things I was thinking about. Like he was talking about how the design of it so you could put it in a Bed Bath & Beyond. would pick it up and play it because it doesn't look intimidating. And then I was just talking earlier with my mother-in-law and wife about how like they won't use a PlayStation 4 to put on Netflix because it's just like the controller is too intimidating for them. Yeah. That's one of the things he's talking about, like the simplicity of the controls and just like the turn off of like how hardcore gaming has become.
Yeah. That really does seem fascinating. The one thing that I don't know how they're gonna do this, but like, didn't they make a statement to say that every game is going to be exclusive? Every game on the system is only going to be for that system?
That I don't know about. That could be. We'll see how that goes. I mean, they would have to do a lot of in-house development if that's the case.
Yeah, but that guy's got a crazy resume or portfolio. Like he's made so many games. I can't, or he's been at least a part of so many games.
Right.
But yeah, no, I think we'll definitely reach out to them. Like, absolutely.
I think, like you guys said too, the Nintendo Switch would be great to have like a physical copy of the game one day. You know, I'm one of these people that doesn't love buying digital anything.
Yeah. You want to hold it.
Want to hold it. want to be able to trade it,
Yeah.
sell it, borrow it to a friend. All
Totally.
this digital stuff you can't do that with.
Yeah, I totally, yeah.
Because, like,
super fun.
for instance, like Mutant Football League, I bought the game on PlayStation 4. It's a digital copy because that was my only option, but now it's out physical. And I would like that because it's a physical copy. I didn't know that was going to come out at the time, but like there's nothing I could do with the digital one, like as trade value or anything. It's just, it's like either I just stick with that one or I don't get the physical or I just double dip. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Whereas I got my son a couple of Switch games and physical Switch games. He lost them, and we purchased one game digitally on the Switch, and he literally can't lose that. So on one hand, I'm like, this is maybe better that we get our games digitally now, but like Switch games are these they're just like SD cards, you know.
They're small.
Yeah. No, we've totally lost something without the cartridges nowadays. Yeah, this experience is way different. I wish we could get it on. We could have the cartridges back.
Right. Yeah. That would be ideal. But so for those listening, if you have any questions for these guys, I know there's been a few. We'll definitely ask. DPS Sean, you have any other questions?
Not that I can think of right now, no.
All right.
Can I ask, how did you guys? I feel like as I play Tecmo, there's so many revelations. Like, oh, zigzag and the defenders go slower in different angles is one revelation. Or then it's like even the nose tackle, you know, that is now kind of outlawed. That was a big deal to figure out you could do that. And it's like you would learn the depth of this game. And I wonder if you guys are if you still feel like you learn stuff from Tecmo playing it. How many times? I don't know how many times you guys have played the game, but honestly, like I wonder, I've played Tecmo hundreds of times. I wonder how well we'd match up against you guys. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's got to be some diminishing returns at the top.
Only one way to find out.
Yeah, I was thinking as we were talking to you, we're doing a retro sports league championship that's going to include 4 games, but we should do at some point a Chicago versus Utah team. You bring your best 10 guys. I'll bring my best 10. It'll be only basketball classics and Tecmo Super Bowl.
Oh.
Combo that and see how it goes. But yeah, back to what you said. Definitely learn stuff all the time in Tecmo Super Bowl. Just the tournament that I played in a few weeks ago, the strategy that the guy that beat me busted out, Nelson79, Levi, he was like, I believe he's just throwing into coverage, knowing that he could probably get it and out tap me and score a touchdown. Like, I haven't thought about or seen someone like doing it like that, but that was the strategy, and he was able to end up beating me in the end. But
not the far back and chuck it thing, but just like a pass right into coverage is what you're saying.
Yeah. With Marino, because Marino, he's not going to throw any loft. So you're going to get that pinpoint accuracy. And then the receivers are so good versus a bad secondary, he knows he'll probably get that catch. And even if he doesn't, it'll just be an incomplete pass. But then because he's a faster tapper, he knows if he gets in that engagement, he's able to out tap and just run it in. And then even,
I mean, probably 3 or 4 QBs in the game that you could really play that strategy with, right?
yeah, there's only a few.
Maybe Eagles.
Eagles doesn't throw that fast, does he?
What's that?
Randall Cunningham doesn't throw that fast. QB Eagles?
He does. He might be 63 pass speed, I want to say. or 69. So he throws fast. Warren Moon's another one.
49.
They have to have high pass control too to make sure that that ball's getting there.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, so even yesterday, so there was a tournament in Iowa, Tecmo Iowa 5. And Joey Gatz was there, and he's the best player, and Mort was there. And, Mort's one of the best players too.
Yeah.
Mort was playing – he was using the 3 motion run plays that aren't commonly seen at the tournaments, and he won 2 games without even passing the ball. And he was just manipulating these run plays to the point where he can just maneuver his way, and he gets like blocks from the quarterback. And it was unbelievable to watch him play yesterday. Like, I haven't seen him play that good since, like, consistently game after game after game, ever. He
just runs.
Yeah, like there was 2 games that he won in a row with no passes.
Oh, that is crazy. That is great. And then if he wanted to pass at any time, I'm sure it would be wide open for him.
Yeah, no, that's what happened. Later in the tournament, he decided to pass a few times. He beat Joey Gatz twice in this tournament. And one of the things I wanted to bring up to you guys is he was playing Joey Gatz in the finals, and he was wearing a hoodie or something. And Joey Gatz scores the first touchdown, and he takes off his shirt, and he's got the Basketball Classics shirt on. I don't know if he planned that or not, but he had it on, and then after that, he took the tournament.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
But yeah, there's stuff that pops up all the time, and then like as we're watching, the community of guys who like to play the game are commenting on what's happening. And like there's like one of the guys that's in the Tecmo community, Darth Rockman, he's seen Mort's run plays, and he knows they're not commonly run. He's like, I wonder if he could dive in with the top corner and get him on that play. So like we're talking strategy as the game's going on, and this is a game that's been out for over 25 years, and we're still like,
that's great.
Man, where can we like get the angle here with the right defender?
Yeah, exactly. That is so awesome. I feel like that's what you've nailed too, just with your channel, your whole like concept is that you don't have to learn the rules of the game, or you don't have to learn new rosters each year. Like these people that are like big into 2K, they've probably got to go through a more learning at the beginning of each release.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So to just be like, no, we're sticking with Tecmo Super Bowl, the original.
Yeah.
We know everybody in it. We know how the game works, and we're just going to explore every possibility with this thing. And yeah, it's cool. How many games could you do that with? I don't know. But Tecmo, you definitely can.
Well, if you think about all the games that simulate sports, like if you just think about baseball, think of all the strategies over the years of just one game. It's baseball played, 162 games a year, played year after year by colleges, minor league teams, and it's just one game. So it's just the mastery of that game. So when the game's great, you just keep playing it. You don't necessarily have to move on to the next one and make all these changes. It's like the NFL making all these changes with the catching rule because it's the replay. It's like, what's even a catch anymore, really?
Yeah.
Like, do we need to make all these changes?
Yeah. No, you hate seeing that. Even with the NBA, they're, every year, it's like, we're going to be less, we're going to call fouls if you touch them at all. And then it's like, what does that do to someone's legacy that's from, a decade ago? Now all of a sudden, does Steve Nash, would he have been as good in another league or nowadays? Or, you know what I mean? Like, I hate when they mess with the rules too much.
Yeah.
Right, because it definitely creates stats that are inflated or deflated depending on the rules of that era.
Yeah.
And I think you're always going to have changes as long as it goes on and people are demanding certain things. Like baseball, they have there's like only a certain amount of time you get between innings or between pitchers. I forget what the exact rule is, but they implement those things to like create better rhythm. Whereas you were talking about in the NBA, all these fouls disrupt the rhythm, or like when they would do a hack-a-shack, or
Yeah.
they do it to Dwight Howard and DeAndre Jordan, and it's like you're just watching a whole game of free throws, and it's a Clippers game that started at 9:30 p.m. and you're watching it until after 1.
Yeah, that's
disrupts the rhythm. So like you have to make changes on stuff like that, or leave it as is. But
that's true. That's totally true.
But yeah, I think you guys have created something special with Basketball Classics, and obviously you guys are taking feedback and you're able to make it even better. Like I said earlier, when I first saw the cutscenes for the new dunking system, like I don't know if I like the way this looks, but when I actually played it, I'm like, okay, I like this better.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you.
And then I had another question too, because when you in Basketball Classics, there's no R1 or R2 to like call a play, a pick and roll.
Mm-hmm.
You have these 3 arrows, long arrows on the other side of the court that you could just follow that path and then it automatically goes to that place. So could you talk a little bit about why you implemented that?
Oh, totally.
Yeah, that was all Dave's idea. I thought that was genius. I really loved the idea because we had gone through, we had discussed a lot about how can we let them call plays without breaking up the flow too much.
Yeah. Well, like we had started, I even have some screens where I was creating basketball plays that looked exactly like the layout of Tecmo plays.
Mm-hmm.
And then we came down to it. We're like, how are we going to stop the gameplay? At what point are you going to stop the gameplay? And are you going to force people to be in a formation? And then what do you do with the defense? Are you going to force the defense to be in a formation? I mean, just to go, an exact replica of Tecmo to basketball, like Tecmo plays to basketball plays, it doesn't work because basketball doesn't execute the same way that football executes. That's why I say I don't think Tecmo NBA could have been as good as Tecmo Super Bowl. It just couldn't have because the software wasn't, capable of it. But I think with the plays, it's like if you break down basketball plays, and you kind of have 3 main things was the idea. You either do isolation, like the James Harden deal, where it's just like, hey, everybody get out of my way. I'm James Harden. I'm going to go to work here. Right? And so that isolation, and then you get that little speed boost. When you push the pass button, after you pick an isolation play, it gives you that speed boost. So then you can do a juke. You could run to the hoop. You can go back, take a 3, try to simulate James Harden if you want. That's isolation. Pick and roll, all it does is when you push pass, somebody comes running. Whoever you picked is going to come over and slow down the person that's guarding you. Right? And so then you can do what you want at that point. But it's very fluid. It had to be fluid. And knowing that a lot of people don't use plays, you guys, I'm sure you played pickup basketball before. How often does somebody draw up a play? Be like, hey, you know what I'm saying? You're lucky if somebody comes over and sets a screen for you ever. So the idea that, I don't know, we want to make sure there could be the strategy, but knowing that not everybody is going to want to get into the deep strategy.
And we just kind of thought, giving the players a way to choose the plays like on the court instead of popping up a play menu constantly that you're navigating, like keeping you in control of the player, just keeping that flow going where you can choose to run over to an area on the court and it'll call the play or not on the fly. We just thought that was a good way of just keeping the flow going. And of course, you can always hit the menu button, call a timeout, and call that timeout with a play, especially if you need to stop the clock or whatever. So there's a lot of strategy around that too, as far as time management.
Yeah, I like how it like automatically pulls up the menu in situations where you should call a timeout or
like final 30 seconds.
Like call a timeout here, advance the ball up court, have a chance to tie the game or hit the game winner, because that's how basketball is at the end of games. It's call timeout, advance half court, hit a shot.
Well, Tecmo does that on fourth down, doesn't it? Doesn't it force the timeout?
The menu comes up on fourth down, yeah.
Yeah, that was where that whole idea came from. It was from that punt menu on fourth down. Yep.
Got a question in the chat for you. What 5 players would be on your all classics team?
All classics.
I'd probably have to say it would look a lot like the Legends team that you unlock in the story mode.
Yeah.
So we have to play through it to see who's on that team, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. That works.
There's story mode, yeah, but there's a story mode plus. That story mode kind of only goes up to 1990.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're forgetting about anything past that.
Well, because nothing happened after 1990
of consequence.
Yeah.
Well,
no, Carl, I love. I really like John Stockton.
We know. We've watched more plays.
You don't know that. You don't.
It's every 3-pointer.
Well, we'll talk about that.
The fact that Mort was hitting those 3-pointers is really crazy. Like, he was double covered on that, and he was John Stockton just chucking threes. And I cannot explain why they were going in. All I can do is, like, on my honor, I swear to you that there is no, like, special code or something with John Stockton.
All I know is when the Jazz are playing the Bulls, Stockton's chucking up. He gets those sparkles every time. Players going in. It don't matter if Jordan's on him or Pippen. It's money.
Oh, man. This goes back to my childhood when my brother John was a Michael. We're in the thick of it here in Utah, and he's a Michael Jordan fan. He's got posters. I remember he had a Space Jam poster where it was like jamming the moon. He's got the arms poster. He's got like the dunk contest. And my dad convinces me to get the John Stockton poster, which is like a bounce pass. And they must have like searched every photo they had of John Stockton and be like, which one are we going to use for the poster here? They're just all like, there's bounce passes, maybe like a low post screen on David Robinson or something like that. Oh, man.
That's what happens when Jerry Sloan coaches you for your whole career. You're going to know the fundamentals.
Yeah. But there's no secret sauce with Utah in basketball classics.
Yeah.
100% stat driven. You can see the stats there. But so what's your dream team?
Johnny Stock. Michael Jordan at shooting guard. Probably LeBron, small forward, maybe Vince Carter, just for fun. Kevin Garnett, and then Hakeem.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a rough starting five to go against.
Yeah.
The Dream Shake and KG.
That would be tough. Yeah, I don't know. What about you? What about you guys? What about DPS or Sean?
My five. I haven't played through the game enough yet, but I would have to go with Magic at point guard.
Oh, yeah.
Short guard. The LeBron was a good choice at small forward. I would have gone with Bird at small forward.
Oh,
He's it, but it's Larry Bird. Power forward. Maybe Pau Gasol.
yeah.
On my Memphis Grizzlies. And
Oh, yeah. That team is sweet. That team was I was so glad you picked that team.
And then probably Wilt. I mean, Wilt is awesome.
Heck yeah.
Oh man, so if I had point guard, I always loved Steve Kerr. I don't know if what team Steve Kerr is on if he's in the game, but I would definitely love to have Steve Kerr at my point guards. Shooting guard, you gotta have Michael Jordan. Always going Michael Jordan. Small forward, I actually was just playing with Jimmy Buckets today on one of those Bulls teams, and he was lights out. So I think he might actually fall on my dream team right now. Power forward, I really love goggles on Horace Grant, so I always love putting Horace Grant in the game. And then my center, I grew up idolizing Shaquille O'Neal, so probably Shaquille O'Neal would be my center. Probably on the man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
See, I would go with an all-power dunking team. That would be my ideal team. So I'd go with Russell Westbrook,
Yeah.
Michael Jordan, Vince Carter, Sean Kemp, and Amari Stoudemire.
Damn.
Try blocking those guys. Get in their way. I don't even think Matumbo wants any piece of that team.
Yeah, you're on Sports Center every night with that team.
Down low, passing it back for the 3-pointers. No problem.
Just so everyone knows, there's another unlockable team in this game. It's the Retro Sports Gamer team put into the game, so you have to check them out.
They're good. They're way good.
Way good.
Yeah, no, they're very good. I was able to get a win with them earlier, and then I took a loss after a few brewskis to the Golden State Warriors. Can't be too mad about losing to the 2018 Warriors.
Now, did you guys enact a rule in the tournament that there was no RSG allowed?
Yeah, we definitely did. There was a little bit of confusion on the stream that day because we didn't change a stream key, but there was a whole 10 to 15 minute conversation about the rules. I wasn't having any of it, but Mort said all these tier rules, and so I think you guys might have missed all that, but there was definitely a lot of rules in place for this one.
Okay.
Yeah. If we were to do it again at D-Men Tap, I think we'd either do 2 changes, 5-minute quarters, I think, as opposed to 3, and then double elimination. I think we definitely had enough time for that. I was worried about that a little bit, but it seems like the clock in the game is Basketball Classic seconds are kind of like Tecmo seconds. They're not real life seconds.
Yeah, no, they're definitely Tecmo seconds. Yeah, you'd have to put 12-minute games. Well, you guys are finishing games in 10 minutes. I feel like, which is awesome. That's one thing I love Tecmo. Why I love Tecmo so much is you can get through a game, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes max.
Yeah, it's about 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's your strategy.
There's definitely a pacing and rhythm to that, and attention span. NBA Jam's another one where the games last like 10, 12 minutes.
Yeah.
And on to the next one. You just keep playing through them. So it's not a huge time investment if you just want to play a game or two, or if you're like us on Monday nights, you just keep playing all night until you pass out drunk on the floor like lumberjack cracks.
Oh, God. Good time.
You guys are that was way fun to watch. You guys are really cool.
Yeah, I think you're going to see more of Basketball Classics on this channel. We're a huge fan of it. I'm glad I found you guys out there on YouTube. And Sean actually is going to stream on the channel and play through a story mode.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We're going to start that soon. I think it's perfect timing, too, because the NBA season just started. And, we want to showcase and see what it's all about.
Yeah, that's great. It's way cool. We really, you guys have been just awesome, and I think you're right. Like you totally get it. You totally get stuff. A lot of times people look at it and just kind of, I don't know, because they're not familiar with Tecmo or whatever. They don't totally understand the concepts. But you guys picked it up like immediately. And you picked up all the references immediately, and you were like filling in rosters immediately. Like it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I definitely think that our age group is a target market for it. That's why earlier we talked about what other consoles can we get that.
Yeah,
because I think the being on Steam is an obstacle for some.
Yeah,
we still like to put in NES, Genesis cartridges in, and hook them up to a computer to stream it. That's that's how we're doing it. We're not even using emulators on the computer or anything. So
yeah,
so I think that's one of the things that you have to look at. And then the fact too that you have the 2018 rosters in there. If a younger generation is able to play this game a couple times or plays it with their dad or whatever, I think they're going to find some enjoyment in it too, and they're going to know who those teams and players are based off of.
That would be really cool. That'd be awesome. Absolutely. And maybe that's like why the Amico makes sense when he talks about it being like a family kind of a console. Yeah, totally.
Because I think like in our ideal world is like this game's on an NES cartridge, but obviously there's still technical limitations to it. It's not actually possible. But if like we could just have a Basketball Classic NES cartridge, would be like that would just be amazing to us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever play on your phone? Like, do you play phone games?
No. You know what? It's just like when I first got an iPhone 3GS, I was fascinated by all the different games that you could play and put on there and the graphics of it even.
Yeah.
But it's just the touch controls are a complete turnoff to me. I actually have the what's that phone called? The Sony Xperia Play. You guys familiar with that?
No.
Sony tried to come out with a phone that had like how the texting phones, you slide them up and it's got a keyboard. This had a PlayStation controller basically. So it's triangle, square, X, circle, and then the D-pad. It didn't really do that well as a phone. It was kind of crappy, but as something to play emulators on and stuff, it was really good. So it was better like handheld gaming thing than it was a cell phone. But I think some of the reasons it failed is because they were trying to charge like on a PlayStation store like $20, $30 for the games. Which that part of it didn't work out. Yeah. But like one of the games you could play on with the D-pad and was NBA Jam, the EA Sports one, because they released it on mobile and you could actually use the buttons in that game. And we played a few Bluetooth games like that, like with an iPhone and me using that phone, which is a huge advantage to have the D-pad and the buttons. But that's one of the reasons I don't play mobile games. What about you, Sean? Do you play them?
No, I don't play any mobile games. Like occasionally one of my friends will have something that they're playing and they'll be like, "Hey man, you should play it." And so I'll like download it while they're over, but then like the next day I just get rid of it cuz same thing, I don't like the touch controls. I don't like everything being on my screen. I like the actual controller and the feel of the buttons and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I play like a couple games on my iPad, but none of them are like basketball games or that sort. It's just, I guess, more like just push button games. Nothing that I would have to like sit there and try to manage a person down.
Yeah. I've seen like those controllers, like like controllers that clip on to the thing. Might be cool because it's easy for us to put the game onto. They're not easy, but I mean we've already made a copy of the game that could go on iOS, but it's a lot of what you guys are saying,
Yeah, and there's always the option to use Bluetooth controllers with the iPad or the iPhone or the Apple TV. Apple TV could be a good solution for the game as far as getting it out there, but I don't know how many people like really use Bluetooth controllers, or especially how many people would own multiple Bluetooth controllers in an Apple TV home.
Yeah,
I don't know. I have to do some research there.
Yeah, there's just so many platforms. It's to consider. But yeah, I think having the hard buttons is the huge factor for us. Like, because some of us don't even play Tecmo Super Bowl online because a lot of the community plays in online leagues and stuff. But there's that slight lag factor, and that even that can deter some people from even playing online. So there's some obstacles with that, but I'm sure you guys will figure it out. But I think there's still, like, the Nokia N-Gage was one of the first mobile like gaming devices, and that kind of bombed.
Yeah.
So there's still availability for this to happen, but it's just like ever since that Sony phone, I don't know if anyone's really tried too hard.
Yeah.
So I guess the Nintendo Switch is probably like the best mobile platform at this point, even though it's not a cell phone. Everyone doesn't have it. Not everyone's going to bring this big thing around, but it's the best option to play mobile games on.
Yeah. But like at Demon Tap, would you guys take over like your Xbox or something? Do you have LCD, or I mean, you got HD TVs there, or are they all CRTs? Like, this place seems like a dreamland.
Well,
a retro wonderland.
Yeah, Phil, was one of the owners there, and he's got 3 CRTs set up in the back. They actually don't have any HD TVs in there at all. They do have a projection in the front, so they can do that. But yeah, it's all CRTs. So when we play basketball classics, my brother's brought up his TV from home to set it up.
Oh, that's very nice of him.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of setup involved in making it happen, like versus just pop Tecmo in NES, the Polaroid CRTs right there ready for us in the corner. We'll just play some games.
Yeah, that would be sweet. How do you know this? Like, what's the Demon Tap connection there? Do you guys have to pay them something to rent the space, or is it just the fact that you're hanging out? I mean, are they just cool?
Well, this is what happened. It was a new bar that they bought, and me and Mort were trying to build a Tecmo Super Bowl community sometime like a year and a half, 2 years ago, and he created a meetup group, and we did a few things at Michael Anthony's in Berwyn, and no one from the meetup group ever came to these events. It was all either Mort's connections or from the forums like tecmobowl.org. So after like 3 or 4 months, Mort just let it go. And then like a week later, Phil of this bar like picked it up. I'm like, Mort, you know, like someone picked up our meetup group like right away. So it was just the timing. Like I don't look at meetup app for anything really. So I wouldn't have been looking at it, but because of the timing of it that he let it go and I was looking at it. And then the first week he had it, I just went in there and talked to him. And then, you know, slowly we've had people come out to play. I know DPS came out. He was one of the first ones. And then ever since it's been going. So that's how we got hooked up with them. And, you know, that's one of his ideas. He's a Tecmo Super Bowl player. He likes Dungeons and Dragons and all this other stuff, but he's like, has nights that he wants certain things there. And, you know, Monday night was perfect for Tecmo, and there we are every week.
That is awesome. It's perfect.
Yeah. And, you know, so it definitely helps that he wants this type of thing in the bar. There's tons of like beercades in Chicago, but nothing that's quite set up like the old TVs, you know, Nintendos, Ataris, and N64. It just so happens we like to be competitive with these games, whereas most other people are just trying to go in there and play Super Mario Brothers for 10 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
So they might be a little intimidated by us on Monday nights, but it's a good time. It's a great bar.
It's like I said, that's the funnest I've had. But I do a tournament, you know, once a year.
Mm-hmm.
So to see you guys do tournaments like weekly, I'm just jealous.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can make it happen, you know, just get 5, 6 guys that are committed, and then get other guys that will come every once in a while, and just it's been pretty good it hasn't been hard to pull it off, but having Phil and Dave and Sean, the owners there, like understanding the vision is really what makes it.
Yeah.
Because I have a bar like down the block from me, you know, a few blocks away, and I talked to the new owner there, and she just wasn't getting it, you know.
Yeah.
Like you're slow on Tuesday. Like I'll bring in 6 guys and we'll play here and drink. It's like, I don't know, I want that in the front. And I'm like, okay, well then I won't be here. See you later. So it definitely helps out.
Yeah.
But you know, we've been talking for a couple hours already. It's been great talking to you guys about this game.
Yeah.
And just retro sports gaming in general. So anytime you guys want to come back on and talk about basketball classics or any other games, just let me know and we'll make it happen.
Heck yeah, absolutely.
It's awesome.
Absolutely. You guys are so cool.
Yeah, it's been fun, and it's been a lot of fun watching the tournaments. We learn a lot about the game. Yeah, interestingly enough, we learn about the game from watching you guys play it, and just seeing people, watching how people interface with the game who didn't make it and who aren't expecting certain things from it. It's been a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, and I definitely think that it helps that we talk a lot about what's going on, because like there's other guys who just play and you don't know what's going on really.
Yeah, totally.
Like Mort's commenting on everything, DPS when the emotions are high, like, you know, swearing, going nuts, things that are happening on the court, but
blaming the developers of giving John Stockton superpowers, stuff like that. Right. Totally.
Yeah. It happens.
No, like watching you guys play last time, I guess that was like July or something, June or July, the last time you guys played. But I feel like it kind of devolved into this. Was it Mort or LJC that was using Chicago, and they were just driving down. They weren't calling plays. and it was just Jordan going down and doing an open dunk, and it was back and forth. Like, oh, our game sucks. This game is. So we put it out like a whole bunch of these subtle little deals, and I didn't see any of that this time. And I think I saw you guys evolve. Like you changed the way you played each game, which is exactly what we were dreaming of when we were making it. Just hoping that it could be the kind of game that you don't just find out, oh, I can beat that game because of this, this broken mechanism, this thing that's I can win every time by doing whatever. We really don't want to see any of that stuff, but it takes a lot of like deeper testing to get to that point. And so the fact that you guys have played it for hours is extremely helpful for us. So we really, really appreciate that.
Yeah. And it's cool to see that you guys understand the vision, that you see where we're going with it, and that you understand it, that it makes sense, and that you're on board with it. It's cool to get that validation. It's been really encouraging to us to see it kind of resonate with you guys who are like right in the target market. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and Green Magic's in the chat right now saying, "Don't feel badly. We'll find a way to break any game." And that's almost true to what he did with NBA Jam TE on the Genesis.
Yeah.
Because that game, people wanted an NBA Jam tournament, and NBA Jam TE on the Genesis was the most cost-effective option of all the NBA Jam TEs. So there's been a few of them at Tecmo Madison, the Tecmo Cleveland tournament. Well, Green Magic, he prepared for the tournament, and he found out that the injuries don't reset between quarters. So by the time the fourth quarter is rolling around, the guy has 20 injuries and he can't even walk up the court. And he's just taking advantage of them, pushing them, getting on fire. And I think, heading into the Tecmo Cleveland tournament that was in August, like only a few of us, like DPS knew and Sean, and he told us about that, but like no one else at the tournament knew. So like you kind of like found something broken within the game. And this is a game that's already been out like 25 years. And how many people knew that? I didn't know that, but he was pushing that many times, like noticing the players not resetting when they sub out between quarters. And then, he kind of broke the game in a way. It's known now. You don't play it at a competitive level, but that's just part of the game.
So it turns into like, with injuries, you have to push, right? Like you actually have to get a push.
You have to push a player, yeah, and that counts as an injury.
So he's looking for pushes constantly. Like it's how many pushes can I get as fast as possible?
Yeah, DPS.
That's kind of where the nickname NBA. We started calling it NBA Shove instead of NBA Jam, just because that became the purpose of the game is to shove.
Yeah, if you watch us play, I mean, basically, the goal is to keep the guy with the ball behind half court so you can shove the computer player and then kind of keep him back. You can get maybe 3 shoves in before they score, so you're trading 2 points for 3 shoves, You can do that, and then they go and shove that guy when he dunks it, too. Now you got 4 shoves for 2 points. And that's just, those are the things that it's really more about the shoves than it is the points. Like, I'll give up 8 points if I get 15 shoves, then fine. Take your points. I'm going to get 30 in the fourth quarter on fire.
Yeah. And you will not cross the half line. Yeah.
Okay. They don't steal the ball from you or, with a shove, but then I'll just keep hitting your computer player. So.
Yeah. And if you're poor Johnny Stock,
you're
getting shoved.
Poor John gets beat up. Poor Johnny gets beat up a lot. That's why more standing on the court and then just passing it as the shot clock ran out and shooting it so that he wouldn't get shoved is the whole thing,
Yeah.
Watching Mort play those games are not fun to watch.
Oh man! But you guys got like 100. What was that score? Like 125 points.
We won.
Right?
I think 118.
Oh, that's no problem for these guys.
Yeah, that was just the third game of trying. We had never played before together, so that was game 3.
Oh, that's insane. Yeah, that's because I mean you only have 12 minutes of gameplay to get 120 points. That's crazy.
It was 128-10 or something of that sort. Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, so you guys would find you'd find any. You'd be like a good game testers. Like find out at what point do you break this game.
Well, I mean, we were seeing bugs in your first stream that we hadn't seen before because because of the way we play the game versus the way you guys would play the game. There were all those like speed bugs where your guys were running 5 times as fast. At that first tournament.
Yes.
And thankfully, like from watching that footage, I was able to see where that was happening and address those. But yeah. It's been fun.
Well, we'll keep providing you feedback. I'm sure when Sean plays through, you'll see some things. Maybe not. Maybe it's perfect at this point. It felt like it on Monday night, but we'll keep playing it. And do you guys want to throw out your website, social media stuff before we end this for tonight?
Yeah, check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Namo_Gamo. You can always visit the website, namogamo.com.
Instagram. I do it Instagram.
Oh, that's how you say it. I've been saying it wrong the whole time.
Namo, yeah.
Oh,
Gamo. I was saying Namo Gamo every time.
Throw an accent.
yeah. It's a dumb name. It's a stupid name.
I like it.
Yeah, don't do that. Everyone does that when they create things. They start hating their name at some point. Just embrace it.
Best name ever made.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. DPS Sean, thank you for being on to talk with David and Josh. And we will see you guys next time and look forward to some more basketball classics on the channel and other retro sports games. Tecmo Super Bowl, of course. And have a good night. Take care.
Awesome. Thanks.
Nice talking to you.
Thank you.